Time to look at my dude Pastor here. He, as we know, swapped back to the 5th spot. He originally had the #1 overall pick, but he wanted DeAndre Hopkins, who I think is a pretty, solid foundational wide receiver piece that is going to be elite as at his position for a couple of years. And if he's your favorite player, it's hard to put a price on that. I do think that you could have gotten slightly better value out of Hopkins. He was probably someone that would have slipped to more like 7, maybe 8. I bet people, I don't know, would people have rather had Devontae Adams or DeAndre Hopkins? It's hard to say. But he's a great player, so not much to talk about that. From my perspective, the better strategy is to get a quarterback or a running back up here, but just different strategies. I'm not going to criticize the strategy itself at this point. I will criticize picks and context of the strategy that you committed to, though. So, we'll see when we get there. Ryan Tannehill was next. I think it's pretty good. 32 is, not that old for a quarterback who has had such a major resurgence, and he, figured out how to be an elite quarterback out of seemingly nowhere. So, this could be a top 10-ish quarterback for the next 7-8 years, and that's really hard to find going much deeper than the second round in this kind of league. So there were 3, 6, 8 quarterbacks already off the board, and that's right about where I would put Tannehill right now. So I think it's a good pick in a kind of super flex league where you're going to want quarterbacks if you don't ultra commit to the kind of strategy that Mike Bear did. And then you took Derrick Henry 3rd round, which is crazy value. 3.5 for Derrick Henry is great value. But he has carried the ball many times in the NFL for someone who's 26. I think he has almost 1,000 career carries. Yep. And so, dudes wear down. But also, he's just a freaking freak of nature, and I could see him, go until 33 or something like Adrian Peterson and still being relevant at that point. So, is he going to be this insane for much longer? Probably not. I'd say maybe 2-3 more years, and that might even be being optimistic. But he's a better running back for win now than a wide majority of the players that had already gone. Like if this was not a dynasty league and it was a redraft league, obviously, Henry goes like top 6, 7. So you got great immediate value out of this, and it's going to be pretty good for a couple of years. And I think it's a really good pick. There are no better running backs at this point. You could argue Saquon's better, but you're not getting anything this year. So I can't wait to talk about Stag's team, by the way. Chris Carson's awesome, but he is, I don't know. I always feel nervous about him, even though he just goes out there and produces. I just always feel like, the next game he plays could be one of his last. It's like Seattle just keeps bringing in young talent at the running back position, and Chris Carson keeps on holding on to that job. But we'll just see, I guess. I think I wouldn't call him like the most talented running back in the league by any means, but he's on a good offense with one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and that really helps him, have opportunities to produce. And he gets in the end zone a lot, obviously. So it's a pretty good pick. I think I might have rather had one of these super high upside wide receivers that went nearby, because I think they'll have a longer output of value for you than Chris Carson will. But so far, this is a very strong win now team, and Chris Carson kind of keeps going with that theme. So that's really, when you're thinking about that, it was probably the best pick right there. So pretty nice. Tyler Lockett is like the wide receiver top 5 or something right now. And a lot of that is concentrated in just a couple of games. 53 points is that might be the leading performance of the whole year. And he's just the kind of dude that can do that. And it's hard to predict, but it's going to happen sometimes. So you put him in your lineup and you just have fun with the ride. He's amazing. He's not going to be there as long as, DK Metcalf, obviously, but as long as he's there and he's able to run deep routes and his homie Russell Wilson keeps throwing him the ball, 20 targets. Like he's just going to have weeks that he wins you the week by himself sometimes. And that's a good player to have. And, what's his playoff schedule look like? If this is good, yeah, Rams week 16 is not great, but there's a couple teams in here that he could stomp. Giants have that really good young corner, but I think he might cover DK Metcalf. So, like week 13 could be interesting and stuff like that. So you doubled up on Seattle on back-to-back picks, but that's not a bad strategy when you're trying to win a championship this year. So, and I think that's pretty much what you were trying to do looking at your draft here. So Amari Cooper, I don't know. I think you should have gotten Julio for sure. Or maybe, even like Allen Robinson looks better to me right here. Cooper Kupp looks better to me. Fulgham looks better to me than Cooper right now. You were going win now, and then you took the guy who has Brandon DiNucci thrown to him, and that scares me for you. Cooper is pretty talented, but he also has a tendency to just vanish out of nowhere in games. It even happened this year. What is this Giants game? Was that when Dak got hurt? It might be. And, that could explain that. But even historically, and he just randomly disappears in games. And it's, But he also has big games. So it's next year, this could be really good. But this year, I don't see any way that you might not even want to be starting him at some point. We'll have to look at your other wide receivers. But I'm not seeing great options. So this is your first whiff, I think. You have a championship-looking team, and then you pick a wide receiver whose value has plummeted. And there were better long-term options, and there were better, immediate options. So Jared Goff's a good pick. Quarterbacks are vanishing. You could have had Brady or something, but I like the prospect of getting a dude in his 20s. He's not the best not the best quarterback in football by any means, but he's far from the worst as well. He's got great coach going on, good offensive weapons. This guy could be startable for you for over a decade. So that's pretty solid, I think. Hunter Henry is fantastic pick. What excellent value right here at 8.8. That's one of the best picks in the draft, I think. He's not a superstar or anything, but he gets targets, man. And we have a tight end premium in this league. And I think, this is good production for a tight end in the 8th round in this kind of league. And he's 25. I think he had like 2 ACL tears or something weird, but he's been on the field this year. He's got Justin Herbert. He's averaging like 7 targets a game, and I think this is one of the best picks that anybody made. Fantastic. Daniel Jones is interesting. I do like the prospect of getting a third acceptable quarterback with potential. I also wouldn't be shocked if the Giants move on from him, though, because you just don't see the kind of play from him that leads to being a consistent franchise quarterback that can compete for the playoffs year in and year out. There's some talent there. His big rush the other night where he fell down and should have had a touchdown, those kinds of plays are impressive. And if he does that with any sort of consistency, like you're seeing the rushing floor here is pretty nice. So we'll see. And I think he's a better fantasy quarterback than real life quarterback. And that's even still funny when you look at these weeks where he was only scoring like 7 fantasy points. I don't know. But in this kind of league, you could have had Bridgewater though, I would have taken Bridgewater over Jones, definitely. So, but that's the only quarterback that was left that I'd rather have over Jones. So, it's not like a disaster or something. And quarterback depth is going to be good to have. And your dudes are going to have buys, So you probably even considered that. Like Goff is on bye next week. And buys on quarterbacks are going to be brutal in this league. You're going to have to superflex a non-QB, which is generally not going to be as good. But, anyway. Raheem Mostert, pretty solid, future pick. Oh, he's 28. I had no idea. He looks so good this year when he was on the field, but he just can't stay on the field. And he's been put on IR. He might come back near the end. So if you're a playoff team, which you should be, this looks like a playoff team to me, then you could get some juicy end of year action against trash like Dallas and stuff. So that could be good for you. I don't know if it's a season-ending injury, but that's something to keep track of. Obviously, Preston Williams is okay. He seems like he's been getting some touchdowns, but very rarely is he getting high volume. So that scares me. But he's got Tua coming in there. He's only got 1 year under his belt. I'm pretty sure he was doing pretty good last year and then had a ACL or something kind of near the end of the season. This is a good pick. I like this a lot, actually. And I don't see a ton of wide receivers that jump out to me as like I'd rather have them. So I definitely props on this pick. Kenyon Drake, I can't blame you for going for it. I have him in my 8-team league, and boy, is he frustrating to own. I think Chase Edmonds is better, and I think Arizona is going to realize that soon. So, and Kenyon Drake is locked up there, so I think they are going to flip flop, and Drake is going to be the one that like occasionally jumps onto the field. And he's obviously hurt for this year for a bit, and I don't see him taking back any sort of starting role. But I could be totally wrong. They invested the money into him, and sometimes teams have sunk cost fallacy stuff going on. So, pretty high risk but high reward kind of pick here. Personally, there's definitely like higher upside long-term guys around this chunk of the draft that I would have taken, but I still think this is probably a pretty good pick that could pay off, but I don't think it will. So, we'll just have to see. Justin Jackson's okay. I think he's had enough opportunities to prove that he can be a good player, and generally it's just been kind of middling. He's only been in the league a couple years, but I just don't see any sort of consistent role for him whenever he's on a team with healthy players. Like Eckler's obviously way better. N'Keal Harry, I think, is horrible. I just don't understand what's wrong with him, but he looks like a bad wide receiver. But I don't blame you for going for the young player with upside. But I would have probably taken tight end depth here, which you could have had with Herndon or Sample. I don't think you needed another dart throw wide receiver. There's dart throw wide receivers down here, and N'Keal Harry looks so bad that I just don't see any path to fantasy relevance for him. Anthony Miller's okay. His quarterbacks just suck. He had a good week 1 and okay week 3 and just whatever since. Anthony Miller can't be trusted. Damn. So yeah, he's okay. I snatched up Shepard here right before, but he seems way more interesting to me. Scotty Miller, you probably should have taken. Tim Patrick, you should have taken, I think. And with your kind of win now team, I think AJ Green with his target share that just keeps blowing up and he's looking better and better. Like if you've been watching the Bengals, they're using him differently. Like first couple weeks, they were using him like he was still 27 and he's running like these crazy deep routes and there's just not connecting. But lately, they've been using him like Michael Thomas, just kind of like a really annoying slant type of receiver that's almost impossible to guard because he's 6'4" and like a smart receiver. So I don't know. I definitely would have taken AJ Green with your kind of strategy that you had going on here, and you could have had a nasty flex, dude. And we'll talk about that when I talk about Stag's team, obviously. Spoilers. Tevin Coleman, great pick, I think. I think he still has a little bit of juice left in the tank, and he might have some weeks of being very relevant. This guy does nothing, so I don't know about him. Jimmy Graham, Paul, he could be playable this year. We've seen him. He has 4 touchdowns on the year. 8 targets, 10 targets, 7 targets. Yeah, not a long-term piece, but he could be playable for you this year. So you did get some tight end depth. It wasn't the kind of high potential upside depth that I was targeting in the draft, but he's legit for right now. So Demarcus Robinson never seems to be able to pull anything out, despite opportunities. Like Sammy Watkins just keeps getting hurt. Demarcus Robinson doesn't do anything. So I don't understand, but I didn't want him. J.D. McKissick, I was targeting at points, I think he's pretty interesting. Antonio Gibson feels like he's running away with this job, but they keep putting this guy out on the field, and he's not great, but he's also not bad. So pretty good 20th round pick. Equanimous St. Brown. This guy doesn't do anything. So random guy. Kendrick Bourne is cute. I actually think he could see some interesting play with Debo out. Like he was a acceptable player back here when Debo was out. So Taysom Hill, I love it. He's not a fancy player though. You know, obviously, even when Breeze is gone, he's not like a starting quarterback. Greg Olson's cool. I do love this Des Bryant pick just for the, you know, it's probably nothing, but you know we're in the 26th round, and this could pay off. I wouldn't be shocked. And then whoever that is. So, Pastor, I like it a lot, and this looks like one of the favorites for the championship to me. Good tight end. Oh, you're actually flexing Henry. Yeah, I don't mind that at all. Good tight end, big time receiver. Questionable Cooper. You have someone that's great that's on bye or something, right? Like Chris Carson is hurt. DeAndre Hopkins on bye. That's right. Yep. So I mean your receivers big time. Derrick Henry big time. You might end up being able to get Mostert in there. Maybe Kenyon Drake. Chris Carson obviously when he's healthy is totally in there. I mean if Carson heals up, this team, this is like my second place team, I think, for win now. This looks great. So the win now grade's like an A. The future grade is not going to be as good. Your high upside young players are few and far between. There's a lot of dudes who are kind of in their late 20s. So, and you know, short-term future, maybe next 2 years, you're still going to be good, I think. But then year 3, 4, 5, you're going to start having players fall off. And it'll be tough, but I think you'll be able to recover. And so for like a long-term grade, probably like a C+. I think this is one of the better drafts in the league. And that's even with, you know, arguably your first-round pick, you went more with your favorite player over the best option. And so, you know, but it looks really good. And you could win the title. So that's Pastor's team.